Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of RVBusiness Capitol Talk, sponsored by the Dicor Corporation. I'm Rick Kessler from RV Business. With me, as always, Sherman Goldenberg of RV Business. And joining the two of us today is Michael Peay. Michael, I don't know if you realize this, but next year is your 30th anniversary of Holiday World RV.
Wow, you're right. It is. It is.
Michael, of course, founded Holiday World, 5 locations in Texas, 1 in New Mexico, unless there's more that we don't know about.
No, that is what we have. That's correct.
And he's also the chairman for Priority RV Network.
That's correct.
So 30 years, Michael. What a long, strange trip it's been.
Well, and it started many years before that, working in my father's dealership, working for Bill Gorman and consulting side of the business, and working for what was then RV Soft and became IDS, and then working for these Holiday World stores. So it's been a long time. When I went back, there was someone who had a picture of a dealership on the cover of a magazine that I pointed out to all of our employees, or several of them. That's where I started detailing RVs years ago.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. So Rick, go ahead. Let's roll.
All right. Well, first of all, congratulations in advance on 30 years.
Thank you.
What we were just joking about this, but if you can find your crystal ball, pull it out. How's 2022 been for you? And do you even dare look ahead to next year?
Well, when we compare 2022 to 21, it's not quite the same. Not quite as good. And what we expected were margins shrinking in the second half of the year, and that certainly started to happen since we have inventories. Dealers have inventories. But when we go back to 2019, 2018, we're seeing similar sales. What we have seen is like we saw in March of 20, when traffic dropped off suddenly. That was an abrupt stop. We've seen a couple of changes with traffic this year. Once about the 1st of April, where traffic dropped off quite dramatically, and then it seemed to level out through the rest of the spring and summer months, and that seems to have dropped off maybe mid-September again to a new lower level. We think it's due to a number of market pressures. People have said to us over the years, well, interest rates are high, your business must be terrible. Well, no, if that's the only thing we deal with, it's not bad. Oh, fuel costs are high, it must be terrible. No, not really, because you can't take the fishing pole away from the fisherman. You don't take the RV away from the RVer, right? So if it's one or two things, we usually work through fairly well. But now we have, these high costs. We have this inflation, the high costs of our units, compiled with a market consumer sentiment that is not good right now. And so we see some pulling back in the consumer market on spending. We still have traffic. We're still selling across the board, from the least expensive to the most expensive. So it's not a specific segment. We are seeing a little more softening maybe in higher end fifth wheels. So that's kind of where we are. As far as where are we going?
Good luck.
We've projected a slight decline in sales in 23. And in some areas, we're pushing the envelope a little bit. So there are some segments we think we may have been a little behind, that we can capture a little more. Maybe we didn't have product. We might not have had the representation of product that we think we can have in 23. Other areas where we think we're doing a good job in the market, that we think will stay flat or maybe decline a little.
Is that forecast, is 23 forecast really dependent on the consumer sentiment?
Well, I think so at this point, because it appears that we have inventory availability from our manufacturers in all segments. So we did have it in towables, and now motorized is catching up also. Chassis availability seems to be better, and our manufacturers are catching up. So I believe we're going to have plenty of availability, and we're all kind of shocked with the dollar level of our inventory because of, we've added about 40% to the cost with inflation over the last 2 years. And so we have a lot of dollars sitting out there that are available for sale. And I think consumer sentiment is going to be the factor that is depressing the market.
Sure.
When do you see whatever normalcy is anymore? When do you see a return to normalcy?
Oh my goodness, Sherm. If you were to ask my wife, well, when do you see Michael returning to normalcy? She'd say, when has that ever been the case? So I'm not sure if we're going to see normal. I'm not sure today what normal is as we just navigate through these changes in the marketplace.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm a little concerned that we had the backlog of orders. We've tried to rectify and clean up all the orders with our manufacturers, as many dealers have done. But it does appear, even though manufacturers said we're not going to let this happen again, that they have overproduced. They have inventory on the ground, which they say they'll never do. We have dealers, even ourselves, who are saying we can't take anymore. Hold off a little bit. Let the marketplace pick up so that we can kind of balance inventories. And my position with them is, I didn't scream at you when you couldn't get me the inventory. So now that I have plenty, don't scream at me when I can't take the inventory. I still want it. Just hold it for a little while. So I think that we're seeing some flattening out, and I think this winter is going to be a little slow, and maybe our January, February, March shows will tell the story. We'll obviously have that little pickup in the spring. Again, we're going to have those consumers that want RVs. We're going to have those people who've saved up a lifetime, who've dreamed of buying that perfect trailer, that fifth wheel, or that little motorhome to go on trips with, and now's the time. So even though the costs are higher than they expected, than they budgeted for, some of those people are going to still be out there buying, and we'll be here for them. So I think we'll do okay next year. I think our profits are going to be substantially lower than they are in 22, because there's a lot of inventory on the street and margins are going to be squeezed. Our costs are not necessarily coming down, but the price that we're going to be able to get for the product is coming down. Pre-owned prices are not coming down in the marketplace on the wholesale side. At least we're not seeing that at auctions from individuals. There are some major companies that have made moves to acquire pre-owned inventory, build their pre-owned inventory, therefore putting pressure, raising the wholesale prices. But we're seeing pressure on the retail prices, so they're squeezing that margin also.
In a couple of weeks, we're going to be out in Las Vegas for RVDA Convention Expo. Always a good time, always a good networking event, always good to see old friends and new friends. Michael, your thoughts, your expectations? What are you hoping to do out there?
Well, it's always good to go and exchange ideas and experiences with other dealers, but also it seems that every year that we go to a convention or that expo, we either meet a new presenter that has a great product, or it could be a service that they're offering, or we meet somebody in the expo who is offering an innovative new product that we can look at and see how it fits with our dealership. So we're always looking for those things. I'm taking some quality young managers to keep their eyes open and look for those types of products.
That's good. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. You know how we normally have the bagpipers come in for the top 50 ceremony? Well, they're booked this year. So instead, Sherman's going to come in wearing the white jumpsuit from Elvis, and he's going to be singing, which one was it? Unchained Melody? I don't know.
Amazing Grace.
Amazing Grace.
By the way, and we may still have the bagpipers. We're reversing wheels on this. We're working it.
You might want to do Jailhouse Rocks.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Right. But if in closing, Michael, if you had a message for the industry at large at this point in closing, what might it be?
Well, I think that those of us, Sherm, you and I have been through these things before. Those of us, others in the industry that have gone through these changes in our industry, the ups and downs with the economy, and fluctuations of inventories, have gone through this before. One concern I have is manufacturers said, we're not going to let this happen again. And here they've done it to themselves. And the one thing that happens when dealers are full of inventory and the market is flat or declining, and manufacturers have not done a good job managing that build rate, the one thing they do to solve that is go find new dealers to sell some inventory to that may temporarily solve the problem, but in the long run, it just puts more pressure on their good dealers in the marketplace. And so we are seeing some manufacturers find an outlet for that inventory by finding a new dealer in a B or a C market that they can send 10 or 15 trailers to. And I think that is a very short-term, a very short-sighted on their part for those that are doing that. I think this is a good time for us as manufacturers and dealers to work together. And just as we worked when there wasn't any inventory and there were the hardships of lack of components to build products with and lack of product on the retail lots, we worked through that together. We need to work through this as partners rather than abandoning us, those of us who've been here for them, and just go set up new dealers and sell some more product.
All right, Michael, thank you very much for joining us today. Rick, sign us off.
All right. This is Rick Kessler signing off.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Take care, gentlemen. Take care.
Thank you, guys.